Well, welcome everybody to our session this afternoon. Should we get started, Neil? Or
yes, please.
Okay, so this session is called "If Only We Could Make Better Use or Have a Better Website," and this is part of a whole series of webinars that we've done this year based on "If Only" through generous funding from CWM, which we were really thrilled with. So we've done "If Only We Could Hear God's Voice More Clearly," "If Only We Could Make Better Use of Our Buildings," and "If Only We Could," what was the other one, Walter? It was about fresh expressions.
Fresh expressions, yes.
If only we could try new ways of being church. So as well as being part of this, we thank Neil for leading this session. These sessions have been real action based. So we've introduced a topic, we've given some ideas, and we shared some things and resources. And then when we've done another session about 4 to 6 weeks later, we've kind of had feedback on what's happened and whether it has supported and helped and met that need for you. And because of the funding and because of Zoom, we've also got some money in a pot that if you've attended one of these sessions and you want and you need money to be able to action some of these points, there is a pot of money there for you. So I will follow up this session with that form that you can fill out and then send back to us. So thank you, Neil, for leading these sessions, and I'll just hand over to you now.
Okay, thanks, Yvonne. I'm going to share my screen now and present to you from a PowerPoint. So hopefully you'll be able to see that and follow what I'm going to say in here. Just to warn you, it is a 100-page PowerPoint, and we've got quite a bit to get through. I just saw your message, Jason, so if you do have to leave early, anyone else, just to let you know that the whole of this presentation, you might not be able to see it quite there. My pictures of you all cover that a little bit there. But if you go onto any website, any browser, and just type in congregational.org.uk/website webinar, it'll take you to the If Only page. And on there, on the right-hand side, there is a PDF version of this document. So you'll be able to find it all, follow through what I've said. All the links are clickable, so you'll be able to go through to the examples I share or the links that I have, and you'll be able to go with that. So if you do take notes, please do take notes, but be assured that this whole presentation is available to you in PDF form, so you'll be able to recap anything on, and anybody who watches the recording will also be able to tap into that as well. So the agenda for this afternoon is to talk about church communication for a start, then to look at the question of church websites, of church social media, and then to finish with your questions. And obviously, this is a completely interactive session, so if you want to add something, please do interrupt me just to make a point or ask a question as we're going along. But there is that section up there where there'll be time for any questions that you have before we then look at what's next. Looking forward to our next webinar that will occur in October and what will entail with that one. So let me start by saying, obviously, I've prepared for this, but when I say I've prepared for this, I find so much of this information is available on the World Wide Web anyway, that, you can go anywhere to discover these pearls of information that I'm going to share with you. The main places that I find help with tech issues is Church Juice, which is a blog that is available in America, and they go over very handy topics. Pro Church Tools, they not only do blogs, but they also do a wonderful series of videos, some of which have been very much inspirational for this webinar. And they are both American ones, so you need to sort of bear that in mind when you're thinking about it, that they take a very American slant to things, mainly in the size of their churches and all the rest of it. So their websites, their social media is on a whole new scale to what ours is. But if you're thinking of, what help is there in this country, there are 2 Facebook groups, the Church Comms group and the Church Tech UK group as well. So, that's handy as well to have as well, that's around there. So those links are all clickable. So if you wish and discover all that, the bottom 2 are groups, so you would have to apply to join them, but they let me in, so I'm sure they'll let anybody in. So go and join those, and they'll be very good in helping with tech questions and themes that come along. So church communication, that's basically what the whole of this webinar is all about. Asking the question, how do we communicate? Well, obviously at church, we communicate via our notices on a Sunday morning. I'm not sure if your church is like my church, but the church secretary or the on-duty deacon gets up and reads from their list of notices for the coming week. And if that's not enough, they're probably repeated on a service sheet that's given out at the beginning of a service, or you have a church magazine where there's information about all the activities that are going on. Maybe you even have a town newsletter or magazine that you're able to publicize your information and communicate to a wider audience than just your church. There's the good old poster or flyer that you can use in your church notice board, or to post through neighbouring doors in streets around the church where you are. Or even another way to communicate is simply through word of mouth. It's often the best way to communicate, because it's sort of almost an endorsement of what you're doing. Before, finally, we come down to what is a website or even social media. But these are all parts of what church communication is all about and how we go about communicating. So it's important at the beginning of this webinar to realize that these are all the tools that we have, and that websites and social media are just one of the tools. If I said to you today, this is all about you getting a website for your church, and this will solve all your communication problems, well, that's not the case whatsoever at all. It's part of the toolbox that you have, and you need to make sure you utilize all of these things, because not everyone will be on social media. Not everyone will have access to websites and so on and so forth with all these methods of communication. So it's important that we realize that they're all part of a working together. So let me just reiterate that if I was to say to you, what's your superpower? You come up with kindness or football or whatever your superpower is. Well, let me just tell you that a church website is not a superpower. It won't accomplish things for you in an amazing way. It is part of the toolbox that we have as the church. So what are the first steps that we need to do to establish an internet presence? Well, the first thing is, if possible, we need to create a team. Of course, it usually does fall on one person's shoulders, and that can be a very lonely task. But if there's the possibility of creating a team to support, to help, to bounce ideas off, then that is the best possible thing. We'll come on to the difference between websites and social media shortly. Websites, basically these days, are just an information sharing point for the life of your church. So the amount of work that needs doing with them once a website is established is rather minimal, really, in the sense that so long as you keep things up to date with activities and messages and blogs and whatever, then, you keep on top of it. Social media is more about a weekly or a daily encounter where you are interacting with people. So, you do need to think about, creating a team, because if only one person has this responsibility, then there is a lot that falls on one person's shoulders. So if possible, create a team. But more than that, it's important for you to share these ideas and thoughts with your church meeting so that they understand why we're taking these steps and what part they play in the life of our church. So just remember that, and don't be isolated in trying to do this work, but be part of the life of your church, sharing it with church meeting, with deacons, with a team to be able to accomplish these things. So on to websites. We're going to spend the first part of this webinar actually looking at websites. And I posed the question, well, what matters about websites? And the first thing I would say is, more often than not, first impressions count. So when somebody clicks on your website for that very first time, if it gives them a little bit of a wow factor, then that's a really good thing. If they immediately see what the information they've come to your website is, then again, that's a brilliant first impression for you to make. And first impressions very much count. So I just highlighted here's a website that was recommended, New Spring Church. And it's just a very simple website. Things are just, when you're presented with this for the very first time, you see a nice large graphic, you see a big welcome to you. If you know that you're looking at websites, then you'll know that here there's the menu is going to appear just here. This will give you the location. You can search on here for anything you want. Here it immediately tells you that you can watch past sermons, or you can enter your location to find out where the church is. So it's a website that has a really good first impression, because you know that you should be able to navigate that website very clearly and very easily. Again, this is just taking a step back from that page. I zoomed out on the page just to go a bit further down. So from the top here where the welcome was, we moved down to then the next part. Again, in as few words as possible, it just shows you that, okay, if the children need to go on the website, then here's this week's lesson. Or to give online, it's very simple how it's done and very clearly set out. And at the bottom here, there's the information that is needed as well. So first impressions count very much. The second question I would ask is, do you need to be original? Now, of course, we all want to stand out. We don't want to be confused with the church down the road. We want to make our own impression and we want it to be good. But be original, I would have to say, that's a big no, because it's got 4 negative impacts this has. The first is that if you're going to be original, then more often than not, you're going to have to create a bespoke website that doesn't look like what else is out there. And that will cost money. And not only cost money, it will also cost time as well. It will take a great deal of time to create that. Plus also, in many of the examples of good websites, of good examples of websites that I will share this afternoon, you could almost say that they all look the same. And part of the goodness of that is that there is a familiarity to it. So you know that it'll be simple and you'll know where to go for the things. So things will be in a good set out. And also with that, there's good functionality as well. You'll be able to navigate quickly. You'll be able to watch videos. You'll be able to contact them and things like that. So don't think that you have to be original. There is, plenty to say that, it's good to be like other churches or like other websites that are good examples as well. So to talk about a good example, most good websites these days are based on what we call a card framework. And this is going back to that example that I showed you there. This one is your largest card and spans the whole of the web page. And then if I scroll down, there would then be these 2 cards on the page side by side that you could scroll, that you could go between. And then right down to the bottom, there's this foot bar here that again goes across the whole, and it's all very framework. And the good thing about this is this layout transfers well to tablets and to mobiles. And it's especially worth noting that that's a good thing, because mobiles these days are the ones in which most people actually surf the web these days. So it's very, very important for us to make sure that things translate well to that medium. So again, here's another example. I've zoomed out on all these. This would usually fill your whole screen, but here's another one. This frame here goes across the whole screen, and then there's more blocks that probably if you went on a mobile phone, these would just one would appear at a time rather than side by side, but they're all there. And here's another one as well. This is one of my favorite ones that I'll highlight again later. And again, a framework here where all what you need to see in their menus is individually passed out, and going further down, it's got the events coming up. So again, a good framework. And as I said, mobile accounts for approximately half of web traffic worldwide. In the first quarter of 2021, mobile devices generated 54.8% of global website traffic. So it's most important for us to remember now that your website needs to look good on a mobile phone, and a framework website will translate well onto a mobile phone. So that's card framework. And good images, that's also what draws people in. There is a wealth of websites out there that promote good images that you can use and all the rest of it. And virtually all of the examples that I've used on the left-hand side of these slides have been taken from Pixabay or other photo sharing suites that are out there that provide good quality images to enhance your work. But, and I will come back to this in just a minute, better than anything else are good images of your church, of your people, and of your locality as well. An image says more than 1,000 words can possibly do as well. So it's important at times to keep the words to a minimum and highlight the use of good images to take forward. So, websites. Thinking about creating them, well, what's hot and what's not? What do you really need included as part of your website? Well, rather than starting with what's hot at the moment, let's start with what's not, the sort of things for you to try and avoid, okay? So the first thing to do is to try and avoid the use of sliders. Sliders are so yesterday, they really are. Now, and you're probably saying to me, what do you mean by a slider? Let me give you a good example of a slider. Oh, hello, it's our own Confed website. What a slider is this image just here, and you can see this text here. It will slide through, in the case of the Congregational Federation, every 7 seconds. This will move on to the next one that's in the what they call the show reel of information. And basically what they're saying now is that who has got 7 seconds to wait for an image to move on to the next item? We're in that age of life now where you want to come onto a website, find out immediately what you're looking for and to go to it. You're not here to wait for something to move on to the next slide. Now then, when the Congregational Federation had this website provided 10 years ago, it was ideal for its use, and it really did work. And, you know, there are still some churches that do use this. But at the moment, if you were looking for features for your website, then I would say to you, don't go with sliders. Just, you know, go more for frame. The other good thing about the Confed website is it does have these blocks here. So, again, you see immediately what's on offer straight away, and you can click on those stories. So try and avoid the use of sliders. Stock photos. I mentioned a minute ago about there is such a good array out there, but don't be too dependent on them. Make sure you use your people. Let me give you a few examples. These are good photos. Wonderful children, but they're not your children. Wonderful couple, but they're not your couple. Wonderful hands, but they're not your hands. Beautiful tigers, but they're not your tigers, are they? Take a picture of your own tigers if you want them on your website. That's what I say. Take pictures of your own congregation, of your own services, and make sure they're very prominent on your site. And the third thing to try and avoid is to try and avoid overcomplicating the situation. So when you do your homepage, make sure there's no more than 7 links that go across the top of the homepage. So for instance, here, you will see that right at the top here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 menu items there: ministries, messages, events, about, and contact. And that's as simple as you should leave it, so that people can navigate as quickly as possible to where they need. That's not to say that you only need a maximum of 7 pages on your website. You can have as many pages as you want. You can obviously hide them underneath those levels. So if you went to click on about, you'd discover that there's 4 things under there for you to find. So that's all about using good navigational skills on your website. But just to try and keep things as simple as possible in the top part of your website there. Okay, so that was what you should try and avoid using on your website. Now, to say what's hot, well, the first thing you should do is to sort of make sure your branding goes throughout your website. So what's hot is having your logo prominent. Now, the one I'm going to use as an example for all these parts here is the Mosaic Church in America. And this website for me is a really, really good one. And there at the top left-hand side is Mosaic, and they've got a wonderful little logo there made up of mosaics with a cross in it. And it's just a simple thing. It is what they're known by. It'll be on their branding, on their leaflets, on their notice boards, wherever. That'll be there. And of course, it's across their website as well. So a really good point of information there. Menu navigation, this is what I just mentioned a moment ago. Make sure it's as simple as possible. And here's the first one in there. If you click under ministries, there's a huge amount of stuff under there. So you don't want that all clogging up your homepage. It's under there, but it's a good way then to navigate through this website to find out what you want to find out about, whether it's about children, young people, men or women, whatever group it is. It's easily accessible and you can navigate through this website very easily. Headline. It's very important to draw people into your website, and it's not just enough to have your logo or your church name going along the top of your website. It's much more personable these days to actually have some text on there that is a headline. So this one says, a church in Lynchburg, Virginia, trying to live by faith, be known by love, and be a voice of hope. And for many years, many churches have had their mission statement and have put it on various different things. Put your mission statement, if it's as succinct as this, on your website so people are met with it the moment they encounter your website. So that's a really good way to sort of welcome people to the website. The fourth thing is a call to action. Now, a call to action is actually something that you interact with. So on the front page here of this website, there are 3 call to actions. The most prominent one is this: visit us this Sunday. So if this is the first time you've been on their website, you were looking to actually go to this church this coming Sunday, well, there's the button straight away for you to click to find out the information for you to be equipped to go to that church this Sunday. So that's a wonderful way to actually be able to interact. And the other 2 call to actions that are on here, 3 up in the top right-hand corner, there's pray, give, and live stream. And again, these call to actions simply means that once you click those buttons, an action will happen. So if you click it, if you click pray, you're going to give a prayer request, or you're going to help the church in their prayer. Obviously, with give, if you click the give one, you're going to make a donation. So that's the difference between simple navigation around the website and a call to action. That's what it's called. Okay. And then finally, inspirational imagery. Don't just use the sort of, where you get people to pose for a photograph. Actually try and include action shots or ones that, of the church with a nice sunset behind it or something like that. Something that really is, sort of breathtaking. You might say to yourself, well, I'm right in the middle of a concrete jungle in the middle of a city. Well, there are ways we can always find inspirational imagery, and, it's easy to do and to use. So try and make sure that your website is filled with inspirational imagery as well. Okay. That was just to show the example on here. There wasn't a brilliant photograph on here. I will come back to another one in a few minutes where there's a wonderful image on there as a sign of a good example. So that's that. So websites, what do you need to include? I would say that if you were to have just 6 pages on your website, that would be the absolute minimum that you could have. So there's, first off, your homepage, which is always the most important one because that's the first impressions that people often make. The second would be that plan a visit, because you are there to provide information. So if somebody comes on there and wants to know, straight away they'll find out what time you meet on a Sunday or whatever time they are planning their visit for, a children's event or whatever. They will know what to bring or what time to be there or what's happening. So that's the most important page as well. Third, people want to know about you. So about us, how long have you been there, and, all the rest of it, your history, who you're perhaps affiliated to, that sort of thing. Who we are. It's most important also for people to be able to connect. So it's important to show, those in the leadership positions within the church, or welcome stewards or things like that. And this is going back to those photographs that are so important. If you put a photograph of these particular people on your website, then when people do arrive on a Sunday, perhaps for the first time, they will immediately see a picture and say, oh, I saw them on the website. And they'll immediately feel they're in the right place for a start, but, they will also know that they can connect with that person is the minister, or that person is a deacon, or that person brews the tea, or whatever it is. So again, it's an important thing to have who we are. Again, people come on to find out what's going on at your church, whether it's a service, whether it's an activity, whether it's an event, whether it's a concert. So a what's on page is very important as well. And a contact page as well. If you want to be interactive with people, then you need to provide a method of them being able to go through and actually leave information, a question that they can ask about, that you will be able to get back to them. So those are the absolute 6 minimum pages that I think you need. You can also have plenty more. You can have individual pages about your children's work, your youth work, your men's and ladies' work, prayer groups, music groups, all things like that. So you can have as many pages as you want, but these are the ones that are the must-haves for your website. Okay. So let me just step you through what I think are some good examples. And this, again, will be an opportunity for you to look at afterwards. If you download the PDF, you can come to these pages and click on the links and actually go through to these websites, because they are really, really good websites. The first one I started on was the example that I gave of Mosaic Church in Virginia. If you do a Google search for this, make sure you pick up the Mosaic Church in Virginia. There is also, I think it's a bit of a franchise in America, and there are several others, but this is the one that I think is very good and very interactive. So that's Mosaic Church in Virginia. I liked this Menlo Church. Now, you've probably spotted straight away, wait a minute, this church here, it's got 8 menu buttons going across the middle there. What's going on there? You give these rules, Neil, and then you break them with your very first example. Well, actually, if you look at the second good part of this website, their headline, so eye-catching, it's absolutely brilliant. And the second part of it says, nobody's perfect. They're talking about their website here having 8 bits along the top, aren't they, obviously? So that's what's not. But again, what I liked about this was the size of their headline when you encountered it here, and the fact that, you know, you went straight through to there. So again, another good example of a church website. Again, go through to it and see what else they offer. A simple one, Redemption Church. Again, the menu's just straight across the top there. You just click the first buttons. No pictures on this at all. It's all graphical. But, you know, again, along the bottom, it has a banner, new here. So, again, your attention is drawn to that. And, you know, it hopefully answers, you know, have questions? Oh, yes, I do, actually. I'm going to click there to learn more. So, again, a good example of how to draw people into a website. If there's one church I ask you to go and look at after the end of this webinar, it is this one, North Point Community Church. You need to click on this website, because this isn't just a picture. This image here is actually a video, and this video lasts for about 30 seconds, and it's probably the best church video that you'll ever watch. It's just 3 or 4 second snapshots of different aspects of their church life. So there's this outdoor worship service here. There's people walking into the church. There's classes. There's somebody preaching on a stage. There's people going into the parking lot. There's all sorts of things like that. But they've obviously got a huge budget for this and a wonderful video department that film all these things for them. But it is an absolute wonderful example of good practice. If you want your website to look good, then you've got to work hard at it. And this really does show off an absolutely brilliant website. And apart from that, again, the website is just simple apart from here. Again, a headline, there's your logo, here's your call to action buttons, join us on Sundays, and here's your menu buttons as well for you just to flow through. So everything is just set out perfectly on this website. And then finally, just one final example of Hope City, another church, just very simple again, with a headline, with its logo, with its navigation on the right-hand side, so easily set out. And I mustn't just completely keep with the international scene. We also have many wonderful examples within the Congregational Federation of wonderful websites. So I thought I would just highlight 5 of them. Not sure if my first one counts. Are shots still part of the Congregational Federation? Oh, no, they're not. Oh, I thought they were. Apologies that. But this is a good website, Shots Congregational Church in Scotland. Again, very simple. The menu buttons are set out across the top there. You know, information there. So very simple one and a very nice website to flow through. South Chingford. I was talking a moment ago about the need for personalizing. And here we have, the moment you land on their webpage, not only the images that make up their headline banner, but also a welcome home video as well that's prominent. So you click on that and you see all about the church. So again, so important to, you know, personalize them and show people something of your church life. And again, a good series of navigational aids across the middle here with little drop downs so you can click on there to further investigate the menu there. One thing that people will probably ask at the end of this webinar, yes, it's all fine, good saying this, but how much will it all cost? Well, here's Elstow Bunyan Christian Fellowship, and you can see from their web title that they use Weebly, and this is completely free. So they're not bothered about having a URL that actually is just, you know, of their name. They're quite happy to take the Weebly sponsorship in there. So, you know, that's what you have to put up with if you don't want to pay for a website. But it shows that even a free website can be functional, can be good, can be clear, can be inviting. And again, they've got it's nicely framed on their homepage. And at the top there are your menu buttons. So again, a very, very good example of one of our congregational churches sharing a website. The Beacon, Thundersley Congregational Church in the Eastern area, going from one extreme to the other, whereas Weebly is a free website. Thundersley Congregational Church have gone for a bespoke website. So this is actually done, this has been designed for them. And again, another good example, their logo is there, a good welcome and information at the top as well, so people can see that straight away. And also good social media integration. So over here on the right-hand side, there's Instagram and Facebook that are connected to them as well. And finally, Katrin Community Church as well. And what I like about this one is our congregational church down there in Katrin. This is a one-page website. So when I was saying a moment ago about how many pages you need, this one actually has all the information on one page. It goes down and down and down. So, for instance, if we were to click on Sunday services, it would, again, I've shrunk these just for illustrative purposes. This would fill the whole of your screen, and this would give you the Sunday information. And if you were to click on what we do, it would then bring up the next section here, and you can, again, click through to these. Some of these all do take you off to other pages. They do have their own individual pages on the website, but the majority of this navigation at the top here, all this will be on one page. And it's a very good example of a church using a good method of navigation through their information. So a good round of applause for Katrin there for what they've done. So mentioning there just a little bit about those particular types of congregational churches, this then comes down to, well, how do you actually go about creating your website? Well, there are three main avenues of creating websites. You can either go down the road that Thundersley Congregational Church and other churches have gone as well and create a bespoke website. So you approach a web designer close to you, or perhaps you've got a contact through your church, and they actually create something for you, and you either use an editor that you can put in your information yourself, or they will do it all for you. But obviously that will have significant costs to it if you go down that route of actually choosing a web designer. The second route you can go down is to actually choose a specialist Christian website, which will do it. And I will look at the moment at Church Edit, and they are a very good example. Or the third one is you can simply use an all-round website builder. And there are plenty of them out there. I will highlight the Wix.com or the Squarespace, GoDaddy, plenty of other ones to choose as well. So the Congregational Federation's website, that's a bespoke website that was designed by Adept Design. And if you want to go down that route, those are the sorts of things you need to look. You need to put a Google search in for web designers or web designers near me, so you can work closely with them. And they will talk you through all the steps needed to create your own website. So that's the sort of bespoke website design. The second type I mentioned then was the specific Christian sites. There are more than just Church Edit out there. There's quite a number of American ones. I think there are one or two other UK-based website builders, but the main one that I use and recommend is Church Edit. If you remember a moment ago, I'm not sure if I put no in, I mentioned the website of South Chingford. That is created with Church Edit. So they're one. Newcastle under Lyme, they use Church Edit as well. And several other churches in the Congregational Federation use Church Edit for their websites. And again, it's just like any website builder. You get to choose from a number of different templates, how you want to set things out, the themes you want, the style you want, the colors, the photos, all that sort of thing. Or you can ask Church Edit to design homepage, a main page for you, and they will do that. Then also there is the opportunity for you to actually create all the sorts of modules and things that you want. So again, the pages that you need, if you want to have videos on there, if you want to blog on there, so you can incorporate all sorts of things. And they have a very easy to use editor that all these things are created through. And they have a different price setup for it all. It's not the cheapest thing out there. I believe it comes in at least £250 a year. And the more editors you use and the more features you use, the higher your price as well. And that's built into it. But they're a wonderful team to work with. If you were to contact them, even if you were to mention my name in the Congregational Federation, that might see you to a little bit of a discount as well. They're always encouraging that way in the first year, things like that, just to encourage you and help you. They are very approachable and a very good one to use. So again, I can't fault them, and I have recommended them to a number of different churches in the Congregational Federation. And they were due when the May Assembly was first slated for Solihull. I forgot what year that was now, such has been the pandemic. They're only up the road from where the assembly site was going to be. So they were going to come along and have their own stall where they were going to advise churches if they wanted to. And they did say then, and we will have a package that you can have a discount for the first year if you join up, that sort of thing. So again, they're a wonderful little team, and they're always at the resources exhibitions. If you ever go to the Christian resources, things like that, very easy to find. So churchedit.co.uk, a wonderful resource. But if you don't want to go down that route, the third route is to actually simply use a website builder. Now, there are other ones on the market, Squarespace, GoDaddy, and others like that. But the ones that I've always used are Wix.com. So if you've ever been on the Resource Hub or the Cleves Hall Student Accommodation and Conference Centre, or even the Secluded Place or Lifelight websites, they are all created on Wix.com. Two of those websites we pay for, the Resource Hub and the Cleves Hall, because we want to give them a bit more of a bespoke image. But the third one, a Secluded Place, we do that to base each article during Lent, but we also publish it via email, and we also publish it via Facebook. So we're not so fussed about having a bespoke website for that one. So as you can see, we've got this free website title, confed.wixsite.com. So, that's what if you want to have a free website, that's what you actually have, rather than your own unique domain name. But they're very easy to use. Again, you choose a theme that you want to design your website like. You then put in everything you want, the number of pages you want. It's very easy to edit and switch between pages. And the more you work with it, the more you actually find its ease in using. So again, I've recommended churches to use this. Can't off the top of my head remember many, but Clarendon Park, Leicester, they have their website built on Wix.com. Newark Congregational Church actually have theirs built on WordPress.com, as do Market Harborough. So churches use a variety of different website builders. As I say, Squarespace is another one. Often it's what people are comfortable using, because you do need to be a little bit au fait on editing and all the rest of it. But they're just some examples there of websites and of how to actually build them. Oh, and Weebly was the other one. A number of congregational churches have used Weebly in the past. Hay Mills also use it as well as Elstow. So again, another free website and an easy one to use as well. So in summary, in this first section, it's most important to try and gather a team to take on this work. It's most important to plan so you've actually got something to work to and you're not just jumping in on this. It's most important to look at what other people are doing, to see the approaches that they're taking. And then finally, to choose something that reflects your church, will reflect your people, will reflect the message that you want to get across. So that's the first part of my presentation this afternoon on websites. It's just coming up to 10 to 2. This would be a good point to just have a moment just to say, has anybody got any questions about anything I've said so far? Not trying to go off on too much of a tangent or other things, but on anything that I've said so far, has anybody got any questions? Before perhaps then we have a 2-minute break whilst we stretch our legs before the second part of this webinar.
Yeah, I've got a question.
Yes, yes.
What about fonts? And that's 101 questions on that. The best type of fonts for communication in the lettering? Is there any general rule?
Yeah. Now, again, if you were to go and look at the videos of Pro Church Tools, they actually have a video which says the use of church font, the use of fonts in church work. And basically what they say in this video is to try and keep it as simple as possible. Yep. Try not to mix and match. Don't try and have, 5 or 6 different fonts on one page. Yep. Try and have one for your heading. So on this example here of this PowerPoint slide I've got up here, try and have one for your main heading and then one for your bullet points underneath, and stick with that. Don't overdo things. Again, have something nice though for your logo, something that will be often script or handwriting. That often looks good for a logo or your church name, because it sort of gives it that sort of homely feel. Again, go for bold things. So if you're putting a headline on your website, you want something that's striking and stands out. You don't want something that's really, diddly and, really hard to read and all the rest of it. So again, there is information out there. And you find often with the software that you are using, they come with set examples and they offer you, they will say to you, oh, use this font with this font, and, they go together sort of thing. So more often than not, I haven't chosen these fonts that go on here. I've simply gone with what PowerPoint suggested would look good for this. So, that's often, unless you don't like the look of it, stick with what there is. That's what I usually say.
Lovely.
Okay. Any other questions?
Got my hand up.
Oh, Jason.
Before I go, Highbury Congregational Church already has a website, but the individual who created it did it voluntarily, and it's become very difficult to actually manage it. So we really want to redesign it. Is there a way for us to keep the web domain and rebuild it ourselves, or?
Well, again, it all depends on what they built the system on. I mean, if they used
he's a web designer.
That might make it difficult being able. It all depends if you work with him, whether he'd be, agreeable to, giving you access to the back engine to actually make the alterations, things like that. It's funny you should say that, Jason. I nearly included Highbury on the good examples of websites, because again, I went through to the website it's a good example of a framework one. It's got a nice banner across the top, and then but it had a picture of Richard Cleves on, and I thought, oh, I won't show that because it's obviously not. And then when I clicked the home button, it took me to Facebook. So,
yes.
Oh, hello, something's up here.
No, that was a pandemic. We were in the middle of changing things, so it's just a Facebook page. So it's not what I want, and it was proving too difficult to change. It's just the hope was that we could keep, but it may not be possible.
Yeah.
So I do have to go, but I might need some advice from you.
Yeah.
I've got 2 or 3 people that actually know what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah, that's no problem, Jason. I mean, the next session, which will be in October the 14th, I think it is very much the practical session. This is sort of setting the ground, as it were. And the next one is about coming back and people having questions about, well, how do we do this and who should we go with? And what help can the Confed give? I mean, Yvonne said at the beginning, there may be ways in which we can give not only practical help, but also financial help as well, just to give, churches a bit of a start. So, yeah, please do get in touch with us or come on to the next session. And, that we hopefully we'll take that on to the next level then.
Okay,
Jason,
that's really helpful. Thank you. I'm sorry I have to go, but
Jason,
it's a school
crash
meeting.
in
So,
here. Jason.
Sorry.
Jason, just to let you know, there is no problem at all transferring a domain name.
Okay.
So you can take your existing domain name and build a new website using that domain name.
Okay.
And certainly if you use something like Wix, Weebly, whatever, they can help you do all that as well.
Oh, thank you ever so much. That's useful. Thank you.
Okay. No problem, thank you, Jason.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, thanks for just clarifying that, Mike. The domain name belongs to you. You pay for that, and it is licensed to an individual in your church, and you pay for that. So therefore, if you were to change providers, you then simply just take that with you because it's registered in your name, and you just have to keep up payment for it year on year or every 2 years, however long you take out an agreement. So thanks for clarifying that, Mike. Any other questions?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, who's that?
Steph.
Apologies, I don't have you quite all on my screen.
That's okay. Nothing to look at.
Steph, I've moved down. There you are.
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, not so bad. Yourself?
Yeah. Hi to everyone.
Good.
I was having to rush in, and I'm probably going to rush off in about 20 minutes.
Right, no problem. Well, fire your question away then.
Cool, does it? All right. Yeah, we are going to get 2 seconds. Hold on. I'll just get Jane to answer it.
All right. Always happens, isn't it? Always happens.
I'll take this moment just to be pedantic till he comes back, Neil.
Yes.
Next time you're in touch with shots, tell them to proofread their front page because there's a big spelling error on it.
Oh, is there as well? I didn't spot that. Thanks for that, Walter. Will do. It's always useful to have somebody like Walter on your team to spot the errors that you do make. So, Walter on your team. Sorry, Steph.
Yeah, we're going to go and buy a year's kind of website with Church Edit. We feel that's going to be the best thing for us. And we received a grant, which is brilliant, through CWM and Confed. So I was wondering, have you got any particular tips on Church Edit on how to get the best out of it?
Again, as I say, they have a huge number of different templates, so you can choose what sort of approach you wish to take. So it's simply a case of finding which sort of design, is the one that sort of showcases you to the best. So again, it's the sort of information you want to share. So, are you mainly going to be wanting to put videos on there or podcasts or things like that? Or are you going to be wanting simply just to have it more as information about, when things are happening and where they're happening and all the rest of it? So it's just a case of sort of working out in your mind, first of all, what message you want to get across, using the website. And again, just either, I'm quite happy to spend time talking through it with yourselves, or even they would be more than happy just to, help you with that process.
They did offer to I think they have training things you can go on and stuff like that. I just was asking for your your personal kind of tips, if anything you found that really helps or something to avoid on there, building a website.
No, I mean, it is a very simple and straightforward editing suite to use as well. So it is very user-friendly. This was the worry that Newcastle under Lyme had when I went to them, that, would we be able to use it and all the rest of it? Well, once I showed them the ropes and, I helped them create the design and the number of pages and all the rest of it, once, that basic framework was set up, they were more than happy to, jump in and keep on top of it and keep it refreshed and all the rest of it. So it is a very intuitive and very simple website designer to use. And as I say, you've just got to make sure you've got somebody going on it once a week to keep things up to date, to make sure, last month's, meeting isn't on there or whatever. It's all well and good. So, I can't, help recommending them highly enough. So, go for it.
I think that's one of the issues with our current website. It's about 2.5 years out of date. And I think part of it was, and I've learned that now, is you have to assign one person to look at it every single week. And we've done that. So when that going forward, somebody is tasked with spending half an hour a week, just having a look through the website and making sure that everything, anything that's kind of already happened is taken off and anything that's coming up is put on. And I think that's part of the reason our website just kind of failed or didn't, get action was. It is just massively out of date. We didn't spend enough time on it. So
no, that sounds fine. Okay, Walter.
I'm just getting one more question.
Oh, go on quickly, Stefan.
You recommended, is North Point the one in Atlanta?
I think it is, yes.
It's Andy Stanley's church in Atlanta.
That's right. That's the one, yes.
I used to live in Atlanta. That's why I know.
All right. Okay. Walter.
So I was going to ask for a sort of a top tip, if there is one, following up from what Steph said, and thinking earlier, you said, don't overcomplicate the page, don't make it too busy and all of that, which I get. But my question is it, would you advise, say, changing something, once a week or once a fortnight? I'm thinking, you could go on it once a week and think everything's still in date, everything's still relevant. But if you've got people who go to it, once a week or so, is it good practice to have something different that will catch the eye, or should you just leave it until there's something you need to change? You know what I'm asking?
Yeah, basically the homepage, I think, should stay the same from the moment you create it until you really do want a bit of a makeover on it. Yeah, you can change if you've got a large image on there, you can update that from time to time. You can swap it for an Easter one or a summer one, or, be seasonal in that respect. But a website is I'm going to come on to this in the next part of this. A website is a very passive form of communication. You want it to just provide information. It's your social media that should be the one that shows the up-to-date and the changing situation that is, the thing that you should look at daily, weekly, that sort of time scale. So I would say, if you were looking at your homepage, your website, really, you should just keep it the same. So there's no need to sort of say, oh, I need a different picture on, people will have seen that every time. They want that familiarity when they come, because they will more often than not be simply going through to information that they need, or what time is the Bible study, or what time's that concert on, or whatever. So yeah, I would say keep things simple. Okay, any more questions? Okay, let's have a 2-minute stretch our legs where we go and refresh our glasses and open our windows and things like that. And then we'll kick off again.
Thank you. Back in a minute.
Right. Hopefully we're all returned. I've still got you on a single screen at the side, so I hope everyone's come back. We move on in the second half of the presentation to look at social media. And this is split into 3 parts: the why, the where, and the how. Now, social media, as I said, is the exact opposite to what websites are. Websites are passive. There was a time when, the websites tried to have chat rooms or forums, things like that, where people could interact in that way. But then along came something called Facebook and sort of took away all that need for being active, because that's exactly what social media is all about. It's all about interacting with other people. So websites very much are informational. They are there to tell people what's going on, when, who people are at the church, where you can be found, that sort of information. And, you know, the call to actions are the ones where people go on to where it's interactive, that they want to find out, you know, how to come to church, why, how to visit, that sort of thing. Whereas social media is all about being in the moment, being relational with people, creating a connection, making sure you establish a relationship with people. And so for the church, this is a very important element and an important thing for them to use. So this is why we think it's so important that, you know, this is what we're looking at. And we need to think of having a strategy for approaching the digital world. The world of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, whatever other platforms you use. And so in that strategy, we need just to have a very brief think about how we approach these things. And rule number one is think like a media company. And I say that because the question is asked, where does the church get it wrong? The church gets it wrong on social media in the one sense that when they start out, they have one aim in life, and that's to put bums on seats. When church start social media accounts, you will find virtually all of their posts are all about promotion and marketing. They're about saying, come to this event, come to this service, come, and it's just relentless. Whereas if you look at what mainstream media and also the huge mega churches and well-established churches in this country do, it's all about creating content. Now, content creation is about things that you can put out there. So, for instance, on this infographic, it's about writing often. So you're thinking about things to say, about promotions you can make, about how you value people, about how you can interact with them. So you write and you write and you write. And not all the stuff that you write will be used. And some of it will be changed. Some of it will be discarded. Some of it will be edited. Some of it will be improved upon. But you write and you write and you write and you create content. You improve your skills. So if you're good at writing, you'll improve how you can display it. You'll find somebody who's going to take good photographs for you. You begin to understand your audience. So you will know that you're not just there to sort of feed them when your service is, but you'll perhaps anticipate questions that they might ask, or you'll introduce that audience to people in your church. You will stay current. So you'll one of the things that I've seen a lot of social media about at the moment has been the settlement of Afghan refugees and how churches are helping through their harvest appeals this year to facilitate that in their local area. So something that's very current. So if you put that on social media, people are going to say, oh, that church is, being current, and being very topical at the moment. It's also about finding a voice. You've got to be distinct. We've got to say, we've got to express our faith element in what we do as well. We've got to give examples of who we are as a church family. And it's not just got to be about the person who's doing the posting. It's got to be about the life of the church, and always do research about all these things. So about creating content is a huge job. It's not just about putting bums on seats, but it's about a whole message that we need to get across to people. And if you watch adverts on television, or if you read them in the newspapers, you will often see that there are three key components to adverts that really strike home. And they are adverts that give value to people, that empower people, or they encourage people. And that's very important for the church to remember those things when they are creating digital content. The second thing is be yourself. Brady Shearer says this: smaller churches should not be aspiring to replicate on social media what larger or highly influential churches are doing. What will work for a big church often on multi-campus sites and all the rest of it won't work for smaller churches. We need to be ourselves. We need to reflect our location. We need to reflect our demographic. We need to reflect who we are. And just because it works for one of the mega churches in this country or abroad doesn't mean that it will work for us. We need to have our own voice, and we need to make sure that we present ourselves. And the third rule is to remember the 1 in 3 rule. Okay, so we've got our pie chart here, and this will have 3 segments to it. And if you're going to post 6 messages a week on social media, then the 1 in 3 rule says is that you should do 1 on one subject, 1 on another, and 1 on the third, and keep mixing it up. Okay, the rules are: the first should be spiritual practice. A third of your posts should be about spiritual practice. A third should be on meaningful engagement. And a third should be on your story. So what it means is that all your posts shouldn't be about come to the coffee morning, come to church, come to the youth event. Else people are just going to say, oh, that doesn't interest me, they're just all about themselves. Perhaps you should be sort of saying, oh, the Bible says this, or can we pray for you in this way? But it shouldn't all say that, because then people would say, well, don't they actually do anything at that church, or are they just there to give advice? And we shouldn't just be saying to people, you know, how are you today, or you know, what's your favorite television program, or whatever. It should be a mix of these 3 areas, and we're going to come back to these in a moment so that I can give you practical examples of what I mean by these 3 types of social media interaction. So remember, when you're posting things, don't do all the same. Mix up the message that you're sending out. Okay. So those are 3 rules to remember for a digital strategy to have as a church when thinking about social media. Think like a media company, be yourself, and remember the 1 in 3 rule. Okay, so that was the why. The where. The where is which platform is right for us. And I've only really looked at 3 on here. One is Twitter. And as of April 2021, Twitter's global audience was composed of 38.5% of users between the age of 25 and 34. Twitter is a conversation. So you're going on there to say something and then engage in a debate with people. So Twitter is, you know, appeals to a certain group of people, and that's the sort of age demographic that's there for Twitter. Facebook is a much more dynamic site and appeals to a much wider group, although it does show on this group graph here that the majority of users are in that sort of 25 to 34-year-old sort of element. But there are good spreads of people on Facebook of all age, and it's used for all sorts of things. It's not just about a conversation. It's also about promoting things. It's also about advertising. It's all about sharing pictures and all the rest of it. So it is a really good mix. And of course, people will know it very much for being a streaming platform as well. Many churches still use it now as a platform for their church on a Sunday morning. We at Southam are now back meeting in person, and we're almost back to our pre-pandemic levels of congregation, but we still post on Facebook, and we double our congregation every Sunday by doing that. In fact, we more than double it. So it's a worthwhile tool, not only for those who can't make it that Sunday, they can catch up on it later, but it's also good for making new connections as well. So Facebook is a very, very good medium. And then the third medium that is very popular is Instagram. But this is very much for the younger generation, teenagers and the 20-somethings very much. as of July, it was found that 15.7% of global active Instagram users were women between the ages of 25 and 34. So again, and more than half of the global Instagram population is under 34. So that's a huge amount of it being a very young. Okay, so that's the platforms that are out there. We now need to think, well, how do we actually engage on social media rather than just them being our very obvious marketing, come to our service on Sunday? Well, as I said, those three groups that you should be looking at should be spiritual practice, meaningful engagement, and your story. And I'm going to show you now a series of posts which are under different titles, and you can make up your own to fit these different types. This is actually, they're actually all created in Instagram style. Instagram has a complete square of a graphic. So you can post on Instagram and Facebook using that. So that's why I was just going to show this. The Rock Generation Church in America, they just provide very simple graphics. Simple does it. Again, talking about websites being simple, graphics for social media are the most simple things you can do as well. Just using normal graphics, using pastel colors here, or actually using pictures of your church as well. Potomac Valley, they do a similar thing. If you think that, you know, they don't be simple, this has one of the, what it did say on the previous page, there it has 45,000 followers. If you want to build a good following, you can do it just by doing simple black and white graphics. You don't have to do the most brilliant graphics in the world. You can just do something as simple as a little square with just a text on it. So, you know, that church show how simple things can do. And again, just keep things simple and clean and easy and engaging. Okay. So these ideas for these posts that I'm going to share with you are taken from Brady Shearer's 44 church social media post ideas that don't get ignored. You can't miss a title like that, can you? And I thought, yeah, I'm going to watch this. And I picked up several ones that I thought are ones that would engage. And okay, so it starts off by having a type. Okay, so whilst I show you the actual way it is, you can decide for yourself which category it falls into, whether it's the meaningful engagement, whether it's the spirituality one, or whether it's your story. Now, the first is a draft. This is a very American one. In America, they're used to the draft being the choosing of American football teams, where all the best players are put into pot one, all the best players are put into the next ones are put, and the football teams have to then choose one out of that pot and one out. And what this type of post says is, get your social media people to think of the best things that you could have. Okay, so for instance, the youth club menu. Would you rather have Diet Coke, hot chocolate, banana milkshake, or tap water? Post that and see what people come back to you of. And it's all about engagement with people. It's about people saying, oh, yeah, I'd like to have a bit of Diet Coke, or, you know, people saying, oh, actually, we need to be a bit more ethical in this day and age, and perhaps we should be thinking more about tap water than anything else. It's about starting a conversation. And you might say to me, and this is what Brady Shearer says in his video presentation, what's this got to do with the life of church? Well, when you go to church on a Sunday morning, you can bet your bottom dollar that the very first conversation you will have with somebody is about the weather. And you will say to yourself, well, what's that got to do with church? Well, yeah, you talk about the weather, but you also talk about what's on the biscuit plate after church refreshments, don't you? You talk about, what's been on television. And if you're talking about those things in offline world, then there's a place for it to be talked about in our online world as well. And these types of posts are posts that will have an engagement with people and will hopefully start a conversation. Someone will perhaps come along and say, whoa, wait a moment, I'm going to Horlicks on there. or something like that, and hopefully then it will start a conversation. And perhaps then that will continue on Sunday morning in church when you go to get your cup of coffee, and you'll say, oh, no banana milkshake this week, and it'll go on from there. So the draft, that's one type of post that you can make. The elimination. Oh, I like these types of posts. These are really good ones. These are posts which try to ask you to get rid of one of these categories. And these are to try and build a bit of debate and a bit of outrage among your audience, okay? So if you had to eliminate one sport forever, which would it be? Football, cricket, rugby, or golf? Golf has got to go, if you ask me. What's the point in that? It takes forever, doesn't it? You can't be sitting around watching that all day, can you? And you never get it down the middle, do you? So, it really, and that's the sort of thing that you want people to engage, saying, trying to come back with you and say about the things that they enjoy. Never mind football, Yvonne. We're not getting rid of football, that's for certain. Anyway, but that's the sort of debate that you want to have with people, to engage them and to get them energized. So that's the elimination. You can do it about all sorts of things. You could, which book of the Bible would you get rid of? Hey, that would be a good one, wouldn't it? Or which module would you get rid of on the course, Walter? Yeah, get that on the students.
Steady.
Oh, sorry. Who said Hebrew? I did. I know. I'd keep it.
Interestingly enough, the Bible Society do this quite a lot now. And I never realised this was a tactic, because they did put one up an hour ago to say, if you could witness or join in any conversation in the Bible, which one would it be and why? That's a good question, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. Again, it's engaging. And as you're saying, you see them all sorts. I saw one yesterday. I forget whose website that was on. What sort of dog would you want to be? Who's ever thought of that? I mean, who has? Anyway, we digress. The next one is the Bible reading. It's always good to put something like just a simple text on. They use a good graphic, use a good verse. Again, use a good font on there to emphasize what you're saying. Teach us to realize the brevity of life so that we may grow in wisdom. The graphic pulls you into that one there, and it's really eye-catching. Again, the book of Philippians on a sort of a notice board. So again, another good use of it. Or you could even go a bit longer and do a huge, well, not a huge reading, but a larger reading. So again, I spoke a moment ago about when people go on websites or on social media, they want to find what, and they just scroll through and they're zipping from here to there. Something like this, hopefully, will slow people down, will take a moment to actually read the whole of your post and perhaps think about what all those words mean. So again, the Bible reading can be a really engaging way of actually pulling people into your social media. The list. Who doesn't like a good list? 3 things the Bible says about prayer. Always be joyful, never stop praying, be thankful in all circumstances. Pray in the Spirit on all occasions with all kinds of prayers and requests. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. You could also get people to guess where in the Bible they come from as well, or things like that. But yeah, just something that is information about what the Bible says to us, words of, of hope and encouragement. So the list, and we can make them up about all sorts of different topics. On this day, this is a really good one that you could use on this. People use this in every particular type of thing. So on this day, January the 19th, there it goes, it tells you, and you can build them up. If you want, you can just go to, there's a really good website called christianhistoryinstitute.org. And if you go to the today page, you come up with this, and it actually gives you, it happened today, quote of the day, and a devotional. So you could include any of those on a social media slide. So today, September the 16th, 1924, Maria Woodworth H. Etter, a pioneer woman preacher, died. So you could make something up about that. I'm not sure what you can make up, but you could if you wanted to. So again, on this day in history, or you could personalize it to your church situation. And one of the things that Facebook always does is it says to you, remind you of what happened 3 years ago, and you have a memory. You could do that for your church. On this day 3 years ago, our minister came, or this day 3 years ago, it was harvest, or whatever. You could personalize it to your own particular situation. Or, again, another thing that's very relevant, that was one of the things, be topical. You could put on something about what today is. And if you go on if you put into Google social media holiday calendar, you'll find 101 different ones that help you with this. And thefool.com gives you an actual blueprint. And what I mean by this is it gives you the days of the year and what specific day they are. So, for instance, January the 1st is obviously New Year's Day, so you can post on that. I'm very interested to see that January the 20th is Cheese Lovers Day. Ooh, that's a good one, isn't it? Or January the 23rd, National Pie Day. My word, imagine putting that. So you'd put that on a post and say, hey, everybody, today is National Pie Day. Go out and buy a pie for your tea. There's even a National Pasta Appreciation Day. Minister, not pasta as in the Italian food. Do that. I was going to look for one for today and actually do a post, but as you can see, September the 16th is the only date that there's not something for. I couldn't believe it. But September the 19th, if you're interested, it's Sunday. It's International Talk Like a Pirate Day. So try doing the whole of your sermon like a pirate. That'll go down well, won't it? Hey, brilliant. So again, you could do a post on, the type of day, and you'll see those on Twitter and Facebook. Hashtag Talk Like a Pirate Day. They come up all the time. So they're very topical. Advice. As a church, we're in a good place to give advice. So again, you can tie this in any way. The ultimate advice for today: do justice, love kindness, walk humbly with God. Micah 6:8 just put together as advice. And you can do that in so many different ways. Advice about living life, about prayer, all sorts of different things that you can post to give advice to people. The 3-word prayer requests talk about engaging people and being spiritual as well. Simply putting a post on saying, share your 3-word prayer request with us. I want peace, or I am hurting, and it's all about perhaps tying this in with an hour of prayer that your church is having, and having these coming through live as you're praying together, and not knowing the background of people, but just being able to pray into someone's situation who needs that prayer. And you will discover that, you put that out there and people reach out and respond to these things if it comes up on their feed. And it's a simple way just to actually interact with people. And as I say, you don't really want the whole of their story. You just want to know the sort of general guidelines. So if you ask for a 3-word prayer request, you're likely to be able to keep it to a much shorter, succinct thing than anything else. The church invitation. Now, this is a good one to do Friday or Saturday, something like this. Church is tomorrow. We can't wait to see you. And don't forget, it's International Talk Like a Pirate Day. So that's something good, just to bring them in, get them ready. Or we're saving a seat for you at church tomorrow. I couldn't find a better seat like that. It looks like this person will have to sit all on their own right in the lobby or something. So, but, you want to have a good picture on there that will share, where that people are welcome at your church, and we're ready because it's church tomorrow and we're excited about that. The encouragement. We can do this in so many different ways. You could, how cool is it? The same God that created the oceans and the mountains thought that the world needed you. Just an inspirational saying, or again, a Bible verse. Throw all your anxiety onto him because he cares about you. 1 Peter 5:7. Again, something that's encouraging to people and helping them where they are. The Sunday set list. Again, this is very much like the church invitation about getting people ready for Sunday. You could send this out on perhaps the Thursday or the Friday and say, these are the hymns we're singing on Sunday, a chance for you to practice, or if you don't know them even, to try them out. In the bleak midwinter. It's never too early for a Christmas carol, is it? Get that in there in the middle of September. you know, things like that, and it just gives people a little bit of an indication about what's happening on Sunday. Or even, why not put out the readings that you're going to share so people have a chance to read over them before you come to church on Sunday? So again, it's all about preparation for people. It's not about the invite, it's about preparation as well. And the final one I'm going to, oh, hold on, Walter.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say, I do know I've got two friends who are pastors in America, and they actually put out their sermon before the Sunday. A lot of people do it afterwards. They put it out before, and then they, you know, like a script, and then they don't read the script as their sermon, you know, but they preach around it, as it were. They free associate.
Right. Yeah.
But they've found that people actually do read it in advance and then engage more when they're free association in the actual preaching.
Yeah.
Amen.
Hope Bristol have just started to do that. Hope Bristol share their service on the Wednesday and then use the Sunday for discussions around it. They've just started to do that over the last month.
Yeah.
All right.
It's thinking outside the box, isn't it, really?
It is. It is. And then finally, the sports manager. This is another type of post that you could do. This, again, was designed, one of the biggest demographics that churches fail to engage with is men, and specifically young men. And this is a type of post that would try and start a conversation with that type of age range. So fantasy football is a huge, huge thing. And now you'll find church leagues and all the rest of it. And this is, you know, something you could put out there. Who is lining up in your, not in attach. Sorry about that, Walter. In attack for you this weekend. And there's 4 football players. Which one of them would you choose to get you the most points in fantasy football? And it's about engaging people and starting that conversation that they will then join in with. So it's all about providing ideas and inspiration. And hopefully in all those different types of posts, you will have seen spiritual practice, the use of prayers and Bible readings and quotes and things, meaningful engagement, asking people questions, talking with them, starting a debate, starting a conversation that hopefully will not just be on social media, but will also happen on a Sunday night, on a Sunday morning or a Wednesday night, whenever you meet. And your story, also sharing something of you know, your church's life and your events that are happening as well. So hopefully that's giving you some ideas and inspiration to think about those. So that's the websites and social media done. So I've rushed through that in quite a way. So it would only be right to sort of pause for a moment just to say, okay, what sort of questions do people have on social media or anything that I've just said in the last 30 minutes.
Yeah, I asked a question, Neil, about the website, the fonts, that. So is there any particular, I know it's a difficult one, some people argue about, what's the best one to, what you feel right with? And you're saying about larger print, like the agenda, and then when you come down, very often you get a design on your product. This is an iPad I'm on, and you've got a design if you're doing PowerPoint, for instance, and it chooses the font for you and so on, but the size of it and so on, to avoid or to include is the question really on that side.
Yeah, again, as I say before, I mean, with a lot of these social media posts, it is often about going something nice and bold, you know, something that catches your eye for the headline, and then a smaller font then for just the subtitles or the subheading parts of it. And you'll often find that when you do this in your, you know, particular programs, whether it be in Word or even in Publisher or PowerPoint, or if you have the particular, you know, actual software of your websites, they will suggest for you the particular fonts to use that are headlines, that are scripts. And most of it is just simply looking at what you like, what you know, what catches your eye. And that, and really, I can't say sort of further than that. But with this, you know, I would usually have the title 3 times bigger than the subtitle. So you can see gender is approximately 3 times bigger than then my bullet points.
Yeah.
So, you know, that really stands out, and that catches people's eye. They know where we're up to. But underneath that, it's still nice and large for the actual, you know, point of the day we're at. If I was to explain, you know, your questions, if I was to sort of said, please ask your questions now, that would have come again in a smaller font underneath, but probably this same font, but not in capitals.
Right.
So keeping it the same. But yeah,
brilliant. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If I may add one thing to that, Neil, this is something I've learned from bitter experience, where I've failed. You know, I look back and I realize that I failed people. In that, years ago, I didn't go sort of crazy with mixing different fonts and the like, but because I was thinking about what I thought looked attractive, the one thing I hadn't taken on board and was rightly called up on was, especially in the, you know, whether it's websites or media where it's literally going out to everybody, you know, and you don't have contact with them, we need to be aware of people who've got various visual impairments.
Yeah.
And, you know, because people of all ages, you know, will also be coming to our sites. And so I sort of stripped things down, and I've stopped using, in this kind of medium, I've stopped using, you know, great cursive scripts, because they can be very difficult. And I tend to use, you know, the Arial types, you know, the ones that are very straightforward and squared, but for that reason only.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good. That's great.
And connected with that, Walter, is also backgrounds as well.
Yeah.
I mean, people love putting text over photos or over different coloured backgrounds, and that can be as difficult as, you know, anything else as well. Plus, also in this very multimedia age as well, it's not just visual impairment; it's also hearing impairment as well. With when you're playing videos and music and all these sorts of things as well. So it does open a whole, you know, new ball game about those types of things, making sure you're engaging with those groups as well.
Yeah.
Could I just come in there and say that the other thing to consider with backgrounds and fonts and so on is, as we've already mentioned, the number of people viewing on a phone. And so by default, everything shrinks down too.
Yes.
Yeah, as I say, I mean, that's so important about making sure that it scales to the appropriate size and format for phones, because over half of our visits now are on phones.
The young people use phones all the time, don't they? More?
Absolutely, yeah.
And they're streaming and so on and so forth, aren't they? So,
I found it very interesting when we were doing, we weren't live streaming, but we were making services available online. The vast majority of people, and these are people who were 60 plus, were actually watching on an iPad. They weren't watching on a computer at all.
Yeah, and that was our disappointment with our National Assembly, was that it wasn't iPad friendly. In fact, Apple was not compatible with the software that we used at all. And if we'd have known that beforehand, perhaps that would have influenced our decision about where we ended up with. We were, very happy that we were able to communicate in the way we did at the National Assembly. But, you've got to cater to all people. And our statistics through our CF website show that, 10% of people do use an iPad or an Apple Mac to access our website. So you can't just sort of say, oh, we're not culture. You can't say, oh, we're not catering for mobile phone users with our website. They have to view it on a desktop or whatever, because that's half the population. So we've got to make sure that we do things appropriate to our audience. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on an iPad now because my laptop died.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions?
I'm just thinking, presumably the main difference between, say, I'm thinking of websites more than social media at the moment, but the difference between that and saying TV is that, you know, they always give these statistics that in TV they say, or in films, there's got to be something happening every 3 seconds or so. I mean, that varies a little bit, you know, but people, you know, the attention is so bad. So even in the news, you've always got people walking behind, you know, it's so presumably the difference with, say, a website is that you're actually in control. You can move every 3 seconds if you wish.
That's it, yes.
Which is another reason why it has to be arresting from day one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a statistic that there is something like 2.1 seconds is so important. It's in that 2.1 seconds at the beginning of that engagement of whether someone will stop at your story or move on. I forget the exact time now, but it's got to be something that catches people. You know, if you're on social media scanning through all these posts, it's got to be something that, you know, really engages with people to stop them on your post before moving through.
Is it the next one you're going to on podcasts and that sort of thing?
Well, no, not necessarily.
Right, no.
I'll actually go on to what's next. That's, as I say, Thursday, the 14th of October from 1 till 3 again. I was actually going to try and be a little bit more practical in actual sort of showing what the editor looks like on, especially on Wix, but also I could show on Church Edit as well. Also to show practical on something like Canva, which is a graphical creator. This is what I use to create my social media posts and that, to actually show people what are the things that people need to grapple with to produce these things. But it was also going to be an opportunity, because what I'd like people to do from this session is to actually say, okay, what do I want to do next? You know, how can we help you as the CF? If you're going to be, you know, sort of thinking about starting a website, or if you're going to be thinking about creating social media accounts, what practical help and advice can we give to you? And it's about creating over the next 4 weeks, just a little bit of a plan for yourselves of this is what you would want to have as a website, or this is what you want to use for social media, so that we can talk into that next time, you know, with as much sort of help, if that's at all possible. And if it's about podcasts, then I listen to podcasts all the time, and a lot of people do. A lot of people, you know, are commuters, or well, they used to be before working from home. So, you know, they used to put the earphones on and listen to a podcast on the way in, on the bus or train or in the car, whatever. And so, again, that's a great opportunity for the church to produce something that's, you know, short, simple and punchy, and that people can pick up in episodes and use. So again, I'd be more than happy to talk about that and how to go about producing them, and, you know, what's engaging.
Yeah, because I know more people are using them, and when you've got a Facebook site anyway, do you automatically put a podcast on there as well that people can then? And again, you've got to keep it up to date, haven't you?
Yes, I mean, the most successful type of podcasts are the weekly ones where people know when it'll come out and what it'll talk about and what's, you know, it's in their interest group, that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
I think that CF picture must be on the 5th floor of the building that I'm living in, because I don't recognise that room.
It's above your pay grade, Walter.
Evidently. I think, is that one of the stock photos you said we shouldn't use?
Thank you, Walter.
Behind them, don't they? Can have an automatic picture come up, can't they? Like a sunset beach or something.
I think that actually that's taken in Baptist Church House.
Could well be.
Can I just say, I would be interested in getting some more information on podcasts at the next one.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
I there is there's an opportunity there.
Yeah, I think it's tremendous, actually. It's going through my mind from time to time. We've got this particular person who took over from the previous pastor, the website, and we're not quite sure what's happening there at the moment with this person, because she's got this new job. and it's trying to keep the pressure off her, but also encouraging her and the team that we mentioned about coming in to actually run, whether it's a website or the social media, I think. So that's the thing I've been thinking about a lot, you know. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Steph.
Yeah, and again, I mean, there's also the opportunity, if it sits well for you to take this information to your next deacons meeting or church meeting to share with them, or even your next church service to say, you know, this is something I think would be, you know, beneficial for us, engaging for us, helpful for our local community. You know, we're at Harvest where we're trying to engage our local community, and this is what, you know, it's all about. So to share it wider, that, you know, it's all about making sure that, you know, our churches know the information we're trying to share.
That's great.
I need to go. I just want to say thank you so much, Neil, and bye to everyone. I hope you're okay. Can you keep us in your prayers at Home LCC for this Sunday? It's our first hybrid service, so on-site and online. And Jane and I will be endeavouring to practice on Friday afternoon and set up on Saturday. But since we've never done it before, it's a bit of a, you know, into the voyage of discovery. We're going into the deep water, as they say in Christian terms. And we're just praying that God's going to just help us through it. So appreciate that. Thank you so much.
God
Care.
bless, Steph.
Okay, take care, Stephen.
Yeah, good to see you,
Could I just jump in here and say that I actually produce a weekly podcast, and I'm involved in the technical side of another monthly podcast for a Christian organisation. So in no means wanting to take over anything. I'm quite happy to contribute if people want to talk about podcasting.
Right, that'd be lovely. Thank you, Mike.
That's just saved me a little job, that has.
Excellent.
I shall be in contact with you, Mike, and we'll work something in for you know, a little part of the presentation. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, but let me stress, as I say, I'm not trying to take over in any way, but I can perhaps give some practical insights and
Yeah, that would be brilliant.
hints and tips.
That's the whole question of sharing. That's the whole thing
Yeah.
of what we're about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the body working. Right.
Can I ask a very practical question, Neil?
Yeah.
Well, at least I hope it's a sensible, practical question. Now, I realise there's no rules about this, but I'm trying to think, say someone's watching this, you know, the recording of this, you know, someone who's not been here and is watching this. I'm thinking, let's say there's a church that hasn't got a website or hasn't got, you know, a social media platform presence, you know, either or. What would be a reasonable sort of time frame if someone was to say, well, how long will it take to get something up and running? See, I realise that's a, you know, in one sense a daft question, but is there a sort of a minimum that you'd have to allow? Because you mentioned Harvest, and I was thinking, say a church wanted to get something up so that by Harvest they were able to, you know, have things out there. Is that reasonable, or is it going to take, you know, 2 to 3 months to get anything decent done, or, you know?
Yeah. It wouldn't be ready for Harvest, I don't think, no. I would say that churches would need at least 2 to 3 months at the very shortest. I'll share with you that I walked with Newcastle for 18 months before theirs went live. So these things can often be very protracted and that. But yeah, I mean, it all depends how quickly people themselves move with it all. If you've got a team there ready and, you know, then these things often do take off quite quickly. But yeah, you do need to put in the spade work first of all to make sure the ground is prepared for it all. So yeah, it does take at least 2 or 3 months just to get everything up and running. Yeah.
So if a church wanted to get going now, you know, it might be more reasonable to say Christmas, perhaps.
Very much
Harvest,
so. Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, social media is much quicker to be able to sort of get on. You know, yeah, you could theoretically turn that around very short, you know, just create your church, you know, Facebook page. And, you know, by the end of the week, you could be posting on there and that. But it's also about building your audience because, yeah, if you create it today, you've got an audience of 1 or 2, perhaps. So you've then got to start building it and building your audience and all the rest of it. So, you know, even if you do get things up and running, it takes time for it to, you know, get going.
Brilliant. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for all your practical things.
No problem. So, yeah, just to remind you again that this whole presentation is on the CF website. So if you just type in congregational.org.uk/website webinar, it will come up on the page, and it's down on the right-hand side. There's a PDF, and all the links work, and all the slides that you've seen are on there. So hopefully that'll be a good accompaniment. The video recording of this will go up at the beginning of next week on the same page, so people can watch it. It'll be on YouTube, but it'll be tied to our CF website as well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Neil. Fabulous. All 100 slides. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right. I'm just going
Good to see everyone.
at the old hall here. So
when that link is up, I'll send it out to you next week, and I'll send the form as well that you can apply for that funding if need be.
Yeah.
So thanks very much, everyone, for being part this afternoon. God bless you. Have a good rest of the week.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Thanks, everyone.
Really good to see you, Mike.
Thanks.
Yeah, really good to meet you, Mike.
Yeah, bless you. Thank you, Lord.